Okay, our next author, her name is Julie Oleszek. Julie grew up the 9th child of 10. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in education from Northern Illinois University and later earned a master's degree in education from National Louis University. She loves to vacation near water, especially the Mediterranean and Caribbean seas. Julie is the proud aunt of more than 40 nieces and nephews. Holy cow. Catholic family? No, just kidding. And Irish, yeah, say no more. She and her husband, I have a lot of cousins too, same thing. We go to a reunion, there's, I think we're up to 85 of us now, so. Anyway, she and her husband live here in Batavia. The Fifth Floor is Julie's debut novel. Her second book, Just Like Ziggy, which I think you're reading from, or which one?
No, the fifth.
She's reading from The Fifth Floor. Her second book, Just Like Ziggy, is its a sequel. Both books are available for sale up there for $10, and I bet you if you're real nice, you'll be happy to sign them too. Julie, come on up, please.
Thank you, Kevin and Ann. Thank you for inviting me back. I love being part of Waterline Writers. So I'm going to be reading chapter 18 from The Fifth Floor, so I want to give you a little bit of a backstory. So the setting is in the 1970s, and 7-year-old Anna, she's the 9th child of 10, and she suffers a tragic loss of her adored sister, Liz. Worse, Anna keeps secret what really led to her sister's death. With the commotion of her large family and each individual dealing with their own suffering, Anna's silence, distress, and then troubling childhood goes unnoticed for nearly a decade, when at 17 and in crisis, Anna stops eating. This is when Anna's mother takes action and takes Anna to see Dr. Ellison, who is a psychiatrist, who immediately admits Anna to the locked psych ward on the 5th floor of the hospital. So chapter 18 begins with Anna's first week on the 5th floor, and the character you need to know is Carol, and she is the unit's charge nurse and works closely with Anna. Chapter 18. Carol introduces me to another shrink doctor. I follow him to one of the conference rooms where I usually meet with Dr. Ellison for therapy. As soon as he unloads his briefcase with some ink blot pictures, I know what they are. I had taken a psychology class last year and learned about the Rorschach ink blot test. I roll my eyes. Is he kidding me? Dr. What's His Name explains the test. I have no intention of giving him the pleasure of analyzing my life with a few answers to some freaky pictures. He pulls out the first picture. I tell him it looks like an eagle, because it truly does. The second picture is somewhat similar to the first, so I say eagle again. He writes a few words and moves on. The third ink blot looks nothing like an eagle, but I say it does. I do the same with the fourth and the fifth, before he puts the ink blots down and looks directly at me for the first time. I can see you're not going to cooperate, he says, exasperated, looking over his glasses that have slipped so far down his nose they teeter on the edge of his last attached skin cell. Why do you think that? I taunt. Do you see something other than eagles? He stares at me for a moment more. I am going to continue through the pictures. If you see anything other than eagles, speak up. When he continues, I give answers like tomato and boot, but nothing I think might alarm him. He shows me the second to last picture, and something stirs inside me. One blob looks like a young girl lying on a bed, and the blob next to it looks as though the mother is trying to comfort the girl. My throat and chest tighten. Dr. Inkblot must notice my reaction, because he asks if my father ever abused me. What? I scream, you are sick. I want to throw a dagger through his heart. I want to jump over the table and grab him by the throat, but I am too concerned with my next breath. The inkblot is not my father. It's me trying to cover Liz with an Afghan as she lies dying on the couch. Snapshots begin to flash, one right after another, filling my head. A vivid picture of Liz being dressed and taken from her bed, then the car, and then the driveway. I see a flash of myself standing on my tiptoes peering from my parents' bedroom window, and then a flash of Frances walking up the steps. Flashes of a bed, and under the covers are the two of us, Liz and I, but the next flash shows only me, alone. She's gone. I want to scream, but I can't. My breathing is paralyzed. I hear a loud buzzing in my ears as dizziness swells my head. The room closes in on me and then expands quickly. My grip on the chair weakens. Unable to force my lungs to exhale, I fall limp in my chair. Hours later, Dr. Ellison tells me my medication is to blame for the fainting spell, and she has cut back the dosage, but I know better. I haven't told anyone what I had seen before I fell unconscious, but I know the flashing images are to blame for sending me into oblivion. The second week on the 5th floor is never ending. Dr. Ellison probes my psyche for information that I simply don't have. She's relentless, usually carrying on the entire hour, keeping me from joining the others in the art room for arts and crafts, which is where I'd rather be than answering questions. I spent 2 days staring at the wall, refusing to talk, before realizing my tactic was more of a punishment for me than Dr. Ellison, who caught up on charts as I gave her the silent treatment. Today, I give in. I don't know how to answer your questions, I say, avoiding the insane quiet of the last 2 days. Dr. Ellison closes the binder she opened in preparation for my silence. Just the thought of her being one up on me drives me crazy. Answer honestly. When I ask you a question, you need to tell me what you are thinking, not what you think is safe to say. You can tell me anything. I am telling you everything, I lie, knowing she can't possibly understand everything like she says she can. Are you willing to talk about your family today? Like what? Well, let's start with one sibling. I tense, afraid of what she is asking. You choose, she says, relaxing my nerves. Maybe Frances? What can you tell me about Frances? She's the oldest. How old is she? 30? Does she live around here? Do you do things together? She lives... I search for reasons why I shouldn't answer, carefully thinking through the question, knowing nothing good ever comes from quick answers. In Plainfield, I say. What now? After Frances, then Jim, and then she'll want to know about everyone else? I don't want to sit here in silence, but talking means revealing things she won't understand, like when Carol asks me why my family doesn't hug, or I don't eat, and then on and on. These are the things I can't explain. It's just the way they are. Everything is so confusing, I say, placing my hands over my face. What's confusing, Anna? Dr. Ellison asks, reaching over the table, slightly pulling at one arm, wanting me to uncover my face. I put my hands back in my lap. I don't know, just everything. Please, can I go? What is confusing you? I sit back, wanting to go into silent mode. I want to show her I can be just as persistent and stubborn and relentless as she is. This whole thing, I don't even understand why I'm here. I don't need to be here. I'm eating, aren't I? And you said my kidneys are fine, so why can't I go home? You are here because of why you chose to stop eating. Oh, that's easy, I say, straightening up in my chair and firmly planting my feet on the floor in frustration. I was on a diet, that's all. My mother got freaked out about it. God, I swear, it's nothing more than that. Dr. Ellison goes quiet, letting me calm down. And when I do, I realize I've said too much. I know quiet is good, and I have broken my own rules, setting myself up for torment, all because of this stupid therapy session. I raced back through the last 10 minutes, noting what I had said, analyzing what could come of it. Losing ground had not been my intention. Quiet is good. We'll talk tomorrow, Dr. Ellison finally says after 10 very long minutes. I get up to leave, and Dr. Ellison opens my binder. I wonder what she is writing. Maybe she is writing something fascinating about Frances being 30 and living in Plainfield. I doubt it. Group and one-on-one sessions, along with other activities throughout the days, finally earn me enough signatures to have visitors. My parents are the first to visit, and it's awkward. I don't have anything to say, nor do they, although my mother is much better at trying to keep the conversation going than I am. My father, on the other hand, gets himself a cup of coffee before entering my room. He sips on it as my mom and I try to make conversation. When his coffee is gone, my dad gets up from his chair, throws his cup away, and puts his hands into his front pants pockets and jingles his coins. He does this a lot at home when he's bored and waiting for my mother to finish whatever she is doing before they go somewhere. He finally leaves the room to pace the hallways, making me less anxious. I have mixed feelings about my father. I think all of us do. When he's home, I feel like he'd rather be somewhere else than around us. And yet, when people from outside our family speak of him, I feel like I'm wrong. I answered the phone once to hear his secretary on the other end, the only time I can ever remember anyone, including my father, calling from his work. She introduced herself. I had never heard of her, so I figured she had never heard of me, but she had. "Oh, Anna," she said, "you are the 9th child, right? I've heard so much about you." I was totally taken by surprise. I handed the phone to my mother. That was about 4 years ago. I always wanted to ask my father about his work since then, but because I was unsure if he'd be willing to explain his work or selfishly disregard my questions, I stopped myself from doing so. I figured he's good at whatever he does because of his college education, and I left it at that. My brothers occasionally mention camping and fishing trips with my father when they were young, but otherwise I know very little of him. He provides for us in a survival kind of way. I have a roof over my head and good shoes on my feet, as my mother often reminds us, and good doctors and dentists, she adds, as if this is the most important detail in growing up. Since I'm on the 5th floor, I suspect survival consists of more than pink gums and well-made shoes. By the end of our visit, I persuade my mother to smuggle a mirror onto the 5th floor the next time she visits. I want to actually see what food lingers in my teeth or how horrible my face looks. She agrees. I do admire this about my mother, always trusting her kids without question. That's the end.